if you could just start us off with an opening statement, and we'll take questions from there.
We've had a good week so far. Practiced, we 2 days off and practiced Tuesday and yesterday. We'll practice again today. We've got some really quality work in, and we'll take 2 days off, come back, practice Sunday night, then get into a routine for Baylor.
Questions for Coach. If you have a question, please click raise hand. Our first question is going to come from Chris Becker from the Oak Holly. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Coach. How you doing today?
Good, thanks.
How has Josh Sills been able to, be a leader on this offensive line and the team as a whole in such a short time being here?
Josh has a unique personality, and players and coaches kind of migrate to that personality, and he works hard. He's got a little bit of a throwback tough guy image. Players like him. He's very personable, and over a period of time, he's getting a little bit better every day where the players are starting to respond to his enthusiasm.
What do you think made it so easy for him to adjust to Oklahoma State in such a weird season?
Oh, I would say that Stillwater's a lot like the community in West Virginia. We're a population of 50,000 people. He enjoys hunting. He enjoys fishing. He likes the college town environment. I think he feels very comfortable here. He likes Coach Dickey. He likes Coach Glass. He has a good relationship with the people on the staff and the players here. And I think he felt very comfortable, and that allowed him to jump into a leadership role much quicker than what a player would be able to over a period of time early in their career.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Coach, quick story for you. Yesterday, Josh was doing interviews, and I believe it was Jason Elmquist from the News Press was wearing a Ducks Unlimited shirt, and Josh calls him out for it and tells him how much he appreciates a shirt like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's there's been times that he's lived in a trailer, a camper trailer, RV, for lack of a better term, for 6 to 8 weeks at a time. Live off the land, so.
All right, our next question is going to come from Garen Emig from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Garen.
Mike, I've noticed a lot of other teams are really struggling tackling, especially in one-on-one open field, that kind of deal. Even with experienced players, I know you've got a lot of experience on defense, but you guys are about as sure a tackling team as I've seen since the season started. What do you attribute that to?
Well, we're not sure. We've had the same discussions, and that was a huge concern for us, and it's still a concern. I think as we move forward, we're going to see more athletic players on the perimeter, which will be a challenge for us. Baylor has skill at the running back position. They've got skill at returners, and they have skill at the wideouts. They always have down there. So next week will be a real test for us. I wish I could give you an answer other than maturity and experience. I would say would be working to our advantage.
Thanks.
Our next question is going to come from Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, Mike, Knowles has been really successful since you brought him in as defensive coordinator. When you made the decision, Glenn was doing a pretty good job. And a lot of us were puzzled by that. It's sort of like back in 12, you moved on from Bill Young to Glenn, and Bill was doing a pretty good job, but it worked out really well. What is it that you see that even when the defense, or could be the offense, but in this case, the defense has actually been okay, but you just sense that a change is needed? What is it that you're looking for, or what is it that you see that you sort of sense that a change is needed?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Bill Young is a really good football coach who's had success, and Glenn Spencer's the same way. And at times, we make a change in a coordinator spot, not because the coach is not capable, not because he's not doing a good job. Both of those coaches fell victim to unbelievable offensive play in this league during their time and unbelievable quarterback play. And unfortunately, there just gets to be a point where, in my opinion, which is not always right, but in my opinion, you feel like that everything's just kind of flattened out and we need a change. We need some new energy. needed a change in scheme, and those guys fell victim to that. And so the answer to your question would be, it's just a gut feeling you get. Sometimes, when do you change a quarterback? A gut feeling. Might be right, might be wrong. Same thing with the style of play of offense or defense or special teams. So those guys just got caught up in that, and I just had a gut feeling that we needed a change. We just kind of needed – I used the term back then when you asked me the question 3 years ago. We just needed some new blood, and that's why we brought Jim in.
I assume you've been thrilled with the results.
I really like how Jim's adjusted to this league. Again, we're going to know a lot more this year with this group over the next 3 weeks, because we're going to play teams that are really skilled on the perimeter. They have played well. We couldn't ask for more of what they're doing now. Covering eligible receivers is a big deal for us. The way that we play defense, we've covered well. Again, we've played, teams that might not be as effective on the perimeter as what we're going to see over the next month. And I think we'll learn a lot more. But to answer your question, I like how he's adjusted to our staff. I think he's comfortable in Stillwater now. I think he's learned what his role is in the culture here in our football program. For lack of a better term, to be on my staff, things that I expect. And he's changed a lot, Barry, in the last 6 to 9 months, just in his everyday demeanor. He's a highly intelligent guy, very, very intelligent. And I think sometimes if you're not careful, coaches who are really, really smart can outcoach themselves. And he's made some adjustments, I think, that fit in with our players, and simplified systems, which allows us to play fast.
Our next sorry. Is that it, Barry?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Next question comes from Robert Allen from Triple Play Sports. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Coach, you and I kind of talked a little bit about this, I think, after the Kansas game and then some earlier this week. Can you talk about what you're going to say to your players when you give them the weekend off, and how you're going to address that? And I've even a couple of players have already said they're staying here. Do you think a lot of your guys will stick around here just to stay in the loose bubble that you guys have created?
I think some will, Robert. I think some will go and be with their family. My concern is Sunday's test and Wednesday's test of next week. There's a lot of thought that goes into that in my chair. I'm just not comfortable telling them that we have to contain them here for 2 days when they have free time. I go home and see my family. I see my kids, so they want to see their family. I've asked them to be very protective. If they get in a car, they have to mask up. They got to try to stay away from people, because if they get in a car with somebody that ends up positive, then they become a primary if they don't. That's just the CDC. That's just the way it is. When they go home, just try to stay away from people. I mean, you can see people and all that, but, you don't get up close to people for more than, the guidelines say 15 minutes. I tell them I wouldn't be up close to anybody for more than 3 or 4. There's no reason to. Stay away from people. And you just hold your breath. It's just like me. I mean, I'm shocked that I haven't got it in the lifestyle I live. And, I'm at home at my house with 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids in and out of the house 24/7. So I'm just holding my breath and trying to stay away from everybody. But I'm not going to restrict them. I'm not going to keep them here because they've worked hard. They've done what we've asked them to do, and I think they deserve a break. I just hope that they'll take care of themselves. And they know the outcome. If they don't, then they're not going to get to play. And you got to try to do the best you can to protect the organization and protect the team.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Mike, in a year where the offensive line isn't as experienced as you thought it would be maybe 5-6 months ago, how important is the leadership that you're able to get out of Josh and Tevin to bring these younger guys along?
Well, that's important. We were fortunate that we were able to keep 5 guys healthy over the last couple weeks. The musical chairs is what really disrupts your offensive line play. there's so much communication that takes place from a quarterback to a center and a center to the rest of the offensive line. We see so many different looks nowadays than we did even 5 years ago. Communication from tackles to guards, and when you switch those positions, it's just not the same. People outside of the organization might say, well, what's the difference? It's just a big difference. So Tevin has played the best he's played in his career here at Oklahoma State in games, and Josh has continued to get better and better each week. They have to learn to push each other and push their unit in meetings and practice. With the in and out of players because of primary tracing and COVID, two things. One, the simplicity, which is what we talked about 8 weeks ago, is important. And the other is being able to absorb and focus and take information in during the week and get ready for the game. It's more important now because you have guys that miss practice somewhat routinely based on the virus.
And I'm assuming this off week is pretty big for Spencer Sanders and bringing him along.
Yeah, those guys, all three of those guys are practicing full speed. We're keeping the routine the same, rep-wise at quarterback. Those guys are splitting it, and then Bullock grabs the 3 reps. I don't see any reason to change what we're doing at this time, but we've been very fortunate. We're a pretty healthy football team at this point.
When you say all three, are you talking about Cole and Hunter from the injuries, or are you just talking about all three from the quarterback?
Quarterbacks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those guys are splitting their reps, and with Spencer and Shane, and then Bullock's grabbing the 3 reps.
Appreciate
Cole. You talking about Cole and Hunter? No, they're going to be out a while. Those guys are out a while.
it. Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from Scott Wright from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Mike. A couple of guys recently have talked about the importance and the value of the leadership from Amon on defense. What stands out about his leadership to you?
He's committed himself to practicing full speed, and other players follow. Young players follow veteran players. If you have enough veteran players on any of the 3 phases of your team that practice full speed, then you're going to have good team chemistry, and you're going to be a cohesive unit. And these young people in society today will practice better when they have quality leadership. Coaches can do very little when it comes to practice. Doesn't do any good to sit out there and scream and yell at them. I mean, if they're not going to practice hard, they're not going to practice hard. Well, Amon and Malcolm and Tyler Lacey and Rodarius and Christian and a number of guys, McAllister, on defense, they practiced hard. Well, the young guys have to practice hard because the old guys practice hard. And you flip to the other side of the ball. You've got guys that are practicing hard on offense and lead the way. So the difference in coaching college football now versus even 3 or 4 years ago is if the quality of veteran players in all 3 phases, if they don't practice hard, you're going to struggle as a team. And Amon is practicing hard, so the young guys follow.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Danielle Dwyer from Fox 25 in Oklahoma City. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, Mike, I was just wondering, you were talking about, Jim Knowles and how he's been able to adjust to the league with the defense, but how much of the success maybe has been some of those guys you just mentioned, like Amon and Malcolm, those veteran guys really buying in and getting the younger guys to do so? How much success to the defense do you think also attributes to just them not only being in the program, but maybe buying in more than they did in years past?
Well, they have to work together. So the coaches, Coach Knowles in charge, and then he has to get the information to the staff. And that message that he gives to the staff that he wants to give to the defense each particular week has to be the same. So when they break up in their meeting, each defensive coach has to give the same message from Coach Knowles, and then they have to motivate their position group. And then the players have to take over when we get in the practice field. So they all have to work together. There can only be one message, and that message has to be the same, so we're not thinking different thoughts each week.
Our next question comes from Garen Emig from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Garen.
Mike, how do you think Casey's doing with his transition?
He's doing great.
Yeah.
First couple games were rough on him. You just try to limp your way out of the first one. You lose two starters. Another starter in the offensive line can't play. Quarterback change. It's a mess. Got a little bit better against West Virginia, but we're a long ways off. And then we made some improvement. Kansas is having a difficult time right now. I'm not trying to say anything that I don't think anybody knows, but we still played pretty good offensively, fundamentally. We were able to block, cover guys up. Skill guys made plays. Again, the real challenge is going to be the next 3 or 4 weeks. We'll find out where we're at. But I think he's been a good leader for our staff. I think he's been a good communicator for the players on offense. I think he's a good play caller. And his demeanor is really good on game day.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Ryan Breeden from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Mike, as you just mentioned and as you were talking about earlier, after this bye week, things start to really ramp up for you guys with your next 3 opponents. What do you think that you'll learn about your team in the next month?
Well, we're going to answer a lot of questions. As I said earlier, we're going to play some really skilled guys on offense. We'll find out where we're at defensively. You're going to see a variety of defenses, teams that can attack with blitz, find out where we're at offensively. In the challenge. And so, week to week, it's going to be important that we can stay focused and practice, get really quality work during the week. I would guess that over each week you'll have 1 or 2 guys potentially that are eventually going to start catching the virus, and you're going to lose some virus guys. Like to be ready for that. Simplicity is important when you discuss setbacks due to the virus. So I used a term earlier. I just think we're going to find out a lot more about our team in 3 or 4 weeks in a variety of areas. We'll find out really quick.
And this past week, you guys got put the AP poll and the coaches poll have you guys in the top 10, which is nothing new for you since you've been here. But how do you handle and talk to your players about just handling the success and making sure to stay grounded and ready?
Each coach, again, in his meetings, it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago, that when you talk about how Coach Knowles is handling the defense or how Coach Gunn is handling the offense, that message in the meeting to the players is, guys, it's, if we don't practice well today and don't absorb information, then we're one day short of our opponent. And we all know in a somewhat unusual season for a variety of reasons that if we can stay focused and get quality practices, if simplicity plays a role, then whoever we have out there that's healthy for the week and can practice and play, they can go play the game and have fun. And, as soon as you start listening to people tell you that you're pretty good, or if we're a pretty humble organization right now. If you forget about that, that's the best way to get knocked off really quick. We all live in a time, it's been that way forever. You humble yourself every day, or when you walk out the door, the world's going to humble you for it. That's just the way it is.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Scott Wright from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Scott.
Mike, having listened to you talk over the last few weeks about Spencer's injury, it sounds like this one's been kind of tricky to manage. Has that been the case, trying to figure out how much you can push him and what he can do and what he can't?
Not really. We could have played him in the last game. If we needed to play him, he could have played and played really close to full speed. We know exactly where we're at with him, but when you have an ankle injury, you're always better letting it get 100%. You go back on it at 85%, you take a chance on setting it back, and then those things can become chronic for 6 weeks. So for that reason, we just held him out. There wasn't any reason to put him in the game. And he practiced yesterday and looked just like he did first week in August.
Then changing tracks, Sione Asi was a guy we got to talk to yesterday, and he's got a pretty unique story having gone on a Mormon mission, being an older guy at 24. What do you see from a guy like that that's been in some different life experiences than a lot of guys?
The culture and the background and their family history of Polynesian is pretty special. You know, the heritage, the pride, the respect that they bring to themselves and their family every day. We started in recruiting, going out west and recruiting a number of young men. Gosh, it's maybe been 8 or 10 years ago now. And they're a great addition to your team because of the things that I mentioned earlier. It's such a proud heritage, a very respectful heritage, and in life and themselves, and they bring a lot to our team. You know, and those guys might gain 100 pounds when they're in your program for 4 years. I mean, they might come in at 220 and be 320 before they leave. You know, they have a tendency to have a genetic trait to really develop later in life. You know, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, they get bigger and stronger. And so they're a very attractive group of people, and he falls in that category. They're just fun to have in the organization.
Thanks, Mike.
Getting down to our last few questions here. Our next question is going to come from Danielle Dwyer from Fox 25. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, Mike, Chuba seemed to look more like what we saw in him last season, this past weekend. Has there been a difference that you've seen in him, maybe talking with him after that game, leading up to the game, or so far this week? Since then, does he seem to be more settled or just kind of back into it, or have you seen a difference from Chuba?
Well, he's practiced more. I think he got in a routine where he was in practice and wasn't in as much contact as he was early in his career. And football is a very, very non-forgiving sport when it comes to practice. It's extremely difficult to not practice full speed and then be effective on game day. And I think he felt, in his opinion, that he fell short the first few weeks of the season. And last week he worked extremely hard. He stayed in there. He was involved in the contact part of practice, and I think you saw the result last Saturday.
All right. Well, Coach, looks like we've gotten through everyone's questions. Is there any other points that you wanted to make just kind of while we have everybody here? Anything that maybe that we missed?
No, I'm good. Looking forward to a couple days off, and see you guys next week. So y'all be safe. Have a good weekend.
Coach, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate you.
Okay.